story of courage. It has no end because courage has no end. It is the story of a man made famous by war, yet for whom the war was only an episode in a greater victory. Fought for and won in silence and pain. The victory of a man's own spirit, creating strength and hope out of disaster.
Special entertainment for Sunday night on ITV. First comedy at 7:15 with Rising Damp.
Are you quite sure you saw someone? I mean, you know, the light can play very funny tricks, you know.
Well, of course I'm sure. I saw those horrible staring eyes.
Could it have been a reflection?
Certainly not.
We had people like that over to the skinning man, and they skinned them. You're not supposed to break the skin. It's considered unlucky.
Unlucky, you fool!
At 7:45, there's more murder mystery with Heart to Heart. Cribs on the case at 8:45.
Somebody put the youngest member of the royal family in risk of his life.
This can only be the work of an imbecile, a monster.
Or a fanatic.
And following the late news, International Sports Special. 2 exclusives. First, the heavyweight championship of the world with Larry Holmes defending his unbeaten record. Plus, the final stages of the US Masters, a classic tournament in the world of golf. Top entertainment, Sunday on ITV.
Next, we go to the studios of ITN for the news.
The secret of the black magic box.
At the Pig and Whistle Academy of Scholars, there are scholars of philosophy.
Well, that's life, innit?
Scholars of history.
No. 68 when they won the cup.
Scholars of economics.
Lend us a fiver, and I'll give you the quid over here.
Scholars of haute cuisine.
Salt and vinegar or smoky bacon flavour.
But of course, they're all scholars in the art of brewing, which explains their thirst for knowledge. When you know lager, you're a scholar.
Guess who's giving away a house worth £50,000, as well as offering heaps of magnificent prizes in their great, brilliant white spectacular? Ask where you see this sign.
Just look at my hair. It really gets me down. It's so limp and lifeless. But when I wash it, it flies all over the place. But now there's new improved Pears shampoo. Because Pears doesn't strip my hair of its natural oils, it stays bouncy. And there's a touch of grease-free conditioner too, so my hair's easy to manage.
New Pears shampoo for bouncy but manageable hair.
We'd like to warn you that from now on, the Great British Sunday will carry a little more weight, a little more polish, a little more splash, and a lot more colour. With Barbara Daly transforming well-known faces, the man behind Superman, a new look at gardens, plus the rise and rise of Pro-Am golf, Norman St. John Stevens and Disraeli, Les Dawson, Rupert Bear, and even more in the new Sunday Express colour magazine. So this Sunday, watch out, because now the Great British Sunday is even greater.
I see Barbados Consolidated is looking up.
Barbados, sir? Went there last Christmas.
Barbados? How can you afford Barbados on the money I pay you?
Barclays bonus savings account, sir. Put a bit by each month. Nice interest, sir. 11% gross.
High finance, eh?
Well, sir, it's 2% more than their normal savings account.
2% more? On £1,000, that's,
£20, sir. 20,000 on $1 million, sir.
Barbados. You'd have to be running my rolls at the higher car in the evening. Yes? Can you do 3 for Gatwick? 10:30.
Barclays bonus savings account. 2% more than our normal savings account.
Robert Dyas prices offer down-to-earth value for money, with hundreds of bargains like these. It's high time you dropped in to see us. Robert Dyas, the nicest way to get more than you bargained for. Branches in London and the home counties.
Tonight on the big match at 10 o'clock, the FA Cup semi-final between Tottenham and Wolves, a semi-final that's rarely been bettered for its skill, its excitement and certainly its controversy. All the action from Hillsborough then, but also the 12 best goals of the season on ITV in Golden Goals. The big match, 10 o'clock, that's immediately after the news.
This is London Weekend Television, broadcasting from our studios on the South Bank.
46 policemen injured in South London riot. President Reagan goes home to the White House. The space shuttle launch is on again. And Ipswich miss their treble chance. Good evening. 46 policemen have been injured in rioting in the South London area of Brixton. At least 3 of the policemen are seriously injured after hundreds of black and white youths hurled petrol bombs, bricks and bottles. Some of the policemen threw bricks back at the rioters. There have been 20 arrests. Several vehicles were set alight, including a fire engine which was sent to put out the fires. The riot started in Cold Harbour Lane, Brixton, and spread to Railton Road. In Mile Road, 3 policemen were carried away when a petrol bomb exploded. Today's confrontation started when police stopped and questioned a passerby. It came after violence in Brixton last night when about 100 black youths surrounded policemen questioning a youth who'd been stabbed in the back.
The rioters came from behind the security of their burning barricades to lob petrol bombs, bricks and bottles at the police lines. And suddenly Brixton, a South London area of high unemployment, was under siege. The streets littered with broken glass and rubble and burning cars. For the first hour or so, officers with blood on their faces and shirts waited anxiously for reinforcements. One constable turned out to be an inspector in a borrowed helmet.
Nobody quite knows why the rioting started, but when it did, about half a dozen policemen were forced by a barrage of bricks and bottles into this cafe here.
They protected themselves as best they could with their truncheons and dustbin lids until the riot shields arrived. As police reinforcements poured in, a van belonging to the Special Patrol Group was attacked and turned over. The officers inside escaped, and some threw stones back at the youths. But at one point, the police had to retreat. And then community leaders tried to calm some of the youths down, but with little success.
President Reagan left hospital today just 12 days after the assassination attempt against him. He told staff at the George Washington Hospital, "I walked in here and I'm going to walk out." But he'll still be resting for several weeks.
It was the first good look the world has had of President Reagan since the attempted assassination 12 days ago, and he seemed remarkably fit, hardly needing any help from his daughter Patty or his wife Nancy. He's a little thinner, but how did he feel?
Sit down.
It's expected that security surrounding the president will be even tighter than usual during the months ahead. One of his aides said, "The president sees his own responsibility of not putting himself in danger and being careful." Several thousand people had turned out in the pouring rain for a glimpse of the motorcade on its 4-minute journey, and about 200 of the presidential staff waited on the White House lawn. Now we could see what an incredible recovery this 70-year-old man is making. He waved with his left arm the side where the bullet struck, and as he kissed Mrs. Bush, the vice president's wife, he didn't mind the rain. But Mr. Reagan's not likely to make any more public appearances in the near future, nor do much traveling. He'll probably have to miss his daughter's wedding in California in 2 weeks' time. The doctors have advised President Reagan that he must limit himself to just a few hours' work a day for several weeks, and it's expected that it could be 4 to 6 months before he's physically back to normal. Deryck Taylor, ITN, Washington.
America is to have another go at launching its space shuttle, with liftoff now scheduled for 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, our time. The computer fault, which stopped Friday's attempted launch, has been put right.
With Columbia still firmly stuck on pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center, NASA scientists worked throughout the night to trace the computer problem that delayed yesterday's launch. After final consultations this morning, they decided they were ready to try again.
A decision to go for launch of the first space shuttle at 7 a.m. Sunday morning has been made by NASA's senior managers.
But NASA now has another concern, the weather. 50% clear skies are needed in case the astronauts have to bring Columbia back for an emergency landing at the launch site.
The best we've been able to find out now about the weather for tomorrow, it's probably going to be similar to what it looked like this morning. And there was at times quite a heavy cover, which probably would have prevented us launching it if it were the same way.
So the countdown will restart here at the Cape at midnight tonight with anxious eyes on the skies of Florida. Astronauts Young and Crippen, who will reboard Columbia 13 hours from now, are both reported to be eager to go. Norman Reese, ITN, at the Kennedy Space Center.
The IRA hunger striker Bobby Sands has said he won't resign his newly won parliamentary seat because he'll be dead soon anyway. Sands, who's in the Maze prison, hasn't eaten for 6 weeks. His first statement since the election was delivered by his political agent at an impromptu press conference outside the prison.
His exact quote when I asked him that question was, "What do I want to resign for? I have only 2 weeks to live."
What about his hunger strike? That goes on then, does it?
Yeah, his is a hunger strike till death.
Scuffles with police broke out at Belfast City Hall when a small group of people held a meeting in support of Sands. There were a number of arrests. Tonight, Sands supporters again clashed with police in the Falls Road. 9 demonstrators were arrested and 6 policemen were hurt, though not seriously. The Reverend Ian Paisley said in Glasgow that Bobby Sands' by-election win was a vote for violence. It showed, he said, exactly where the Roman Catholics and the so-called moderates stood. The Republic's Prime Minister, Mr. Haughey, tonight said Northern Ireland had failed as an entity. It faced political and economic collapse. He offered the Ulster Loyalists a constructive partnership, taking account of the special relationship with Britain. Thousands of holidaymakers face delays over Easter because civil servants say they'll carry out a campaign of massive disruption over their 15% pay claim. 27 ports and airports will be hit by the action, which starts next Tuesday and will go on for a week. Passengers could be delayed for up to 9 hours. Customs men will be rigorously applying the law, and immigration officials will either go on strike or operate skeleton staffing during busy periods. The airports involved will be Heathrow, Gatwick, Manchester, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Luton, East Midlands, Aberdeen, Liverpool, Herne, Leeds, Exeter, Cardiff, Birmingham, Newcastle, Prestwick, and the US Air Base at Bentwaters in Suffolk. The seaports that will be hit are Dover, Ramsgate, Folkestone, Harwich, Weymouth, Portsmouth, Southampton, Newhaven, Avonmouth, and Felixstowe. The Deputy General Secretary of the Civil and Public Service Association explained why they decided to step up their action.
Well, unfortunately, the government are saying that our action is having no effect. We don't believe them. We think that they're misleading the public about this. But we have to demonstrate to them that civil servants are not just pen pushers. They do valuable public service jobs at airports. And unfortunately, they're going to disrupt the services that they provide unless the government get round the negotiating table.
Now sport, and with news of England's progress in the West Indies and of that upset in the Cup, our sports correspondent, Ian Edwards.
And we start in Kingston, Jamaica, where England are struggling to salvage something from their tour of the West Indies in the 5th and final test. After yesterday's successes, they started badly, losing their last 4 wickets for just 7 runs to finish their first innings on 285. And the latest score we have is the West Indies are on 138 for 2 in reply. The news of the day now from Tony Francis.
If anyone needed a good knock, it was Ian Botham, who's averaging a mere 13 this series. He said if he could survive the opening spell, he fancied 100. He progressed by 1 when Marshall tore in for the second over. Suddenly, 300 looked like a pipe dream, especially with Holding, urged on by his adoring home crowd, bowling like a hurricane. Downton was gone for a duck, and Holding had begun a demolition job which was to clean up the tail in no time. Embry's limited batting talents were never likely to delay him. Furniture removals, just part of the service. Then it was Jackman on the receiving end. He was in such pain he didn't bother to see where the ball had flown. He'd been booed all the way out, then sent back with a split finger. English supporters had seen a collapse which must have made Gooch in particular despair after yesterday. If they thought Dilly would do a Holding on the West Indies batsman, they were soon disillusioned. Greenwich and Haynes made it look like a popgun attack. England had to turn to Embry, but it didn't exactly send Greenwich into his shell. That blow sent him towards another 50, and England's total was looking feebler by the minute. Tony Francis, ITN Sport, Sabina Park, Jamaica.
Back in Britain, it was Cup semi-final day, and at Villa Park, the Ipswich hopes of a famous treble fell at the first hurdle. They went down 1-0 in extra time in their game against Manchester City. City in the dark strip were given their chance when Dave Bennett was fouled by Terry Butcher. Pat Partridge had no hesitation in awarding the free kick, and it was fitting that Paul Power should be the one to score from it. The Manchester City captain had inspired his side by his non-stop running, and his effort had taken the club to its first FA Cup final appearance since they won it in 1969. By this time, Ipswich had lost defender Kevin Beattie with a broken arm, and will now have to work very hard to pursue the UEFA Cup and the League Championship. But it could be a glorious end of season for Manchester City. In Scotland, Rangers are through to their final 2-1 winners over Morton, but Celtic have to replay on Wednesday against Dundee United after a goalless draw. Captain Mark Phillips, chasing a 4th win at the Badminton Horse Trials, is in the lead, despite a bad fall on the cross-country course on his first horse, Persian Holiday. But he made no mistakes on his second, Lincoln, and put up the fastest round of the day. The American, Miss Sandy Pfluger, is just behind him. Another previous winner, Richard Meade, took a tumble on Speculator. But he had better luck on his other horse, Kilcashel, and with just the show jumping to go, he's in 3rd position. Lucinda Pryor-Palmer, who's won badminton a record 4 times, is in 6th place on Marangi Bay.
Now, more news on those riots in Brixton in South London in which 46 police have been injured and some 20 youths have been arrested. We're going back now to Sam Hall in Brixton.
Nearly 5 hours after the rioting began, Brixton was still in flames, with petrol bombs being thrown at the police lines. And a short time ago, the police did as they had promised, moving in behind their riot shields to try to clear the area. The latest information is that the violence is now over and that the area has at least temporarily been closed on a night when nearly 50 police have been injured and the questions have only just begun.
Police have put out a photo-fit picture of a man they want to question about the murder of student Caroline Harris Reid in a South London flat. He's plump, with short, mousy-coloured hair and a deformity in his left nostril. The picture was put together with the help of Caroline's friend Catherine, who was forced to stay in the flat whilst the murderer stabbed Caroline to death. And finally, the tiny Caribbean island of Nevis has won the race to get the first royal wedding stamps out, though they'll not be on sale for 2 months. The St Kitts Nevis government say Prince Charles and Lady Diana will be spending at least part of their honeymoon on Nevis. Buckingham Palace say they can't confirm that or deny it. Well, that's the news this Saturday. Tomorrow, ITN will be bringing you a special programme on the Space Shuttle. Live pictures from Cape Canaveral of the final moments in the countdown and the blast-off from the launch pad. That's at 5 to 1 tomorrow afternoon. Have a good night.
All our political parties agree that we've got to do something to rescue British industry. But no government has yet got to the root of the problem. The reason is that any real attempt to do this would provoke intense opposition from powerful interest groups. What would it take to put our industry back on its feet? And have we got the guts to do it? Industry Secretary Sir Keith Joseph will be interviewed on Weekend World tomorrow at noon.
And now a look at the weather forecast for the London weekend television area. Tonight will be dry, though some mist or fog will form after midnight. And the temperature will fall to about 9 degrees centigrade, that's 48 degrees Fahrenheit. And looking ahead to tomorrow, after a misty start, everywhere will have some sunshine, but scattered showers are likely in the afternoon. The maximum temperature will be 16 degrees centigrade, 61 Fahrenheit, perhaps a little higher in London, and the wind will be a light southwesterly.
If you're interested in a small rotary mower, this Qualcast Rotomow is just the ticket. It's about as light as the smallest hover, it's as easy to push as the hover, and it's about £10 cheaper. Of course, you don't get a cushion of air like a hover, but if you want one of those, we'll throw one in free. Oh, no. The Qualcast Rotomow, it's a lot less lolly than a hover.
Jordache has the bit that's right. You got the look, I want to know better. You got the look, that's all together. Living, loving, day or night. Jordache has the bit that's right. The Jordache look.
Most accidents occur on suburban roads because you're much more likely to meet the unexpected, the unpredictable child, the sudden cyclist, the loose dog, people in too much of a hurry. Your anticipation, your brakes and your tyres are all that can help. And as far as I'm concerned, in the 2 years I've been telling you about the Goodyear Grand Prix S, nobody has yet built a safer tyre. I'm convinced the Goodyear Grand Prix S is a major contribution to road safety.
While most other lagers are being drunk, Carlsberg Special Brew is still maturing. And by the time it gets to you, it is, shall we say, somewhat special. So if you haven't tried Special Brew yet, we would like to make a suggestion.
Cheers.
Gently does it.
Everywhere you go, there are people who love their cars.
Got a feeling I just can't hide it. Ooh, it's not hard to define it. You never ever let me down. I've got a secret, gonna spread it around. 'Cause only the best will do for you.
Everywhere you go, people who love their cars protect them with Shell motor oil.
Only the best will do.
Now, what can I fix you? Moscow Mule, White Lady, screwdriver?
Straight Schweppes, please.
Why not a horse's neck or maybe a Harvey Warbanger?
Straight Schweppes, Tony. On the rocks. Slice of lemon. Thank you.
Straight Schweppes. What can I fix you? White Lady, screwdriver, straight Schweppes?
Schweppes. It's great straight.
Pin is cut over the bunker on the right, in the right side of the green on this shelf. That was a good swing there.
Yes, but a very difficult pin placement to get the ball.
And it hit the pin.
That's right.
The 1981 US Masters is underway. Top quality golf by the world's best players at Augusta in Georgia. Coverage starts in an hour's time, so stay with us after your football program for international golf by satellite from America, the US Masters at 11 o'clock.
Tonight, it's the atmosphere of an FA Cup semi-final between Tottenham and Wolves from Hillsborough, Sheffield. Good evening to you. And that semi-final, I can tell you, will go down as one of the most dramatic and controversial in modern FA Cup history. We'll see all the action that matters and also get to the heart of the other semi-final at Villa Park. Jim.
Yes, Manchester City beat Ipswich 1-0 in extra time. Tonight, we'll ask, will Ipswich end up with nothing? Also, the Everton manager Gordon Lee's job is under threat.
And also away from the Cup, we get on the Golden Goals trail tonight by showing you a preview with the 12 best goals of the season on ITV, and that's action not to be missed. But now that FA Cup semi-final between Spurs and Wolves from Hillsborough, the game was covered by Yorkshire Television, our commentator Martin Tyler.
And here's Steve Perryman at the head of the first Tottenham Hotspur side to reach the semi-final of the FA Cup for 14 years. And John Richards leads the Wolves team, the majority of whom are no strangers to the special tensions of this round of the competition. And with Mel Eves failing a test on an injured back this morning, Emlyn Hughes steps back into the Cup limelight for only his second appearance this year at the end of a week when John Barnwell has given him a public rebuke for his attitude.